Hello, everybody. Welcome to the program today. I'm Mitch Carson here in the Middletown Area High School at the office with the newest doctor here in Middletown, and he's been in Middletown for a long time. It's been his alma mater, and he's been the principal here at Middletown Area High School for a number of years now. But now, with his doctorate, he's going into a new position in Wyoming. I have Dr. Michael Carnes. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Mitch. Great to be here. Excited to meet with you today.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for meeting me here. And first of all, I and everybody here in Middletown would like to congratulate you on your new doctorate. That's very exciting.
Thank you.
It's very exciting, and we know you're gonna you're gonna go far and do great things with that.
Right. Thank you.
So we know Middletown has been your home, like basically your whole life. You were born here and graduated here. What was life like for you in Middletown, like as a student, like going to school here?
The funny thing is, Mitch, I went to almost every elementary school in this district, and I never moved. I grew up in Lisa Lake in a trailer, and two brothers, one younger, one older, my parents, and I went to Northumberland Elementary, which is in Royalton. So if you know Lisa Lake and you know Royalton, they're not near each other. No, so that's where I went to first grade. Actually, in kindergarten, I went to Fink. And then second through fifth grade, I went to what was Grandview and then became Alice Demme Elementary. And then in sixth grade, I went to Kunkel Elementary. I was the last sixth grade in Middletown before they became a middle school. It was a junior high up until I became a seventh grader and went to Feeser. I can tell you that that probably impacted me in terms of just always moving schools. I know my mother was not happy with the fact that we were getting relocated and rezoned all the time because it inhibited my ability to make closer friends. But what it did enable me to do is to make a lot of friends. So I never really thought much of it. I just thought it's what I did. I didn't know any different. But as I got into high school, I really got involved, and I stayed involved in activities as I grew up, and then through high school with the music program and with athletics, and it helped create my identity. Even to this day, like to what I believe in as a high school principal, as the whole student, and everything's important. The music kids are just as important as the kids that are athletes, or just as important as the kids that might be in the gifted program, that are in these special, competitions, and so everybody's important. But what I believe through experience, and now I believe in my job, is that getting involved in school is what's going to help you stay connected to your school. So I think it was my past that really helped me become a principal that believed that everybody should try and get involved.
So when you went through all the schools you went to in Middletown, you looked at how every student is important in their own way, whether it's in the music or athletics, which what makes Middletown a great place to be.
I think it's my involvement. My parents provided me the opportunities to be in the music program. Now, both my brothers were more heavily involved in the music program. I was more involved in athletics, but I was also in Boy Scouts, I'm an Eagle Scout. So, I was involved in a lot of things. I don't think there was a night that we were at home with nothing to do. As I grew up, we were always going. So, yeah, I think it was just my parents and, getting to know all those different people that when I got to high school, I already knew a lot of them. And just being always on the go and being well-rounded.
So when you were a student here, like in Middletown, did you ever picture yourself coming back and working here at your alma mater?
Never. I'll be honest, until I was probably a junior in high school, I never took my education seriously. I would try and get out of going to school. I wasn't connected to school in terms of, I wasn't good at it. I wasn't good at school. And what I have found is typically kids that are good at school like to go to school. Kids that aren't as good at school don't like to go to school. And I understand that because I was one of them. But at some point in high school, it hit me. And I think it was the connections I made with coaches and teachers and other adults that instilled some of that pride in me. And from my junior year of high school until most recently, I took my education very seriously. As you can tell, I just finished my doctorate, which I never would have. If you would have asked me 30 years ago if I would be a high school principal, if I would have a doctorate, if I would have several master's degrees, I would have never believed you.
So you took it like one step at a time and realized like how important like this place was to you and the connections you made with people here, which made you go that direction.
Without question. You know, I remember sitting in Mr. Etsy's office. He was assistant principal when I was in high school, but and then I graduated from college, and I sat in his office, and he tells this story. He remembers the story as well as I do. And I looked across his desk room and said, "What do I got to do to get your job someday?" And I never even worked in education at that point. And I was actually going to go work to become a teacher. And the reason I thought I wanted his job was the impact that he had on students and on people. And I thought, man, if I could ever have an impact like that on 5 people, that would be so awesome. Like, I just wanted to sort of be like him. And some of the things that I believe that I did here in my 8 years as a principal and 9 years as an administrator and 19 years as an employee were some of those very things. Some of those very things that those administrators and those teachers instilled in me. And I know, in having conversations with them most recently since I'm leaving, they saw some of those things happen here.
So when you said Mr. Etsy, because he was the principal at Middletown for a while, and I know both you and the other former assistant principal, Brett Myers, both were here when he was principal.
He was assistant principal when we were
as the assistant
right.
principal.
Mr. Casper Voiderfer was our principal.
And Etsy also worked in the football department.
He was my football coach. Yep.
And so did he always like did he like set the tone like for you like to be where you are now, and always looked at him like as your mentor?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many people. I don't even think I'd have time to name them all, and I'd miss somebody. But between my parents and my older brother, and then Mr. Coach Etsy, a lot of coaches, I can find something out of each and every one of them. And even some of my teachers that I gained close relationships with, I could find something in them that they instilled in me. And that was important. What I believe to this day, and where I'm going, I hope to find the same thing is that I'm not sure, or maybe we do realize how much teachers realize how much of an impact they have on kids or can have on kids, both negative and positive. And I think about myself and the impact of the number of adults. It takes a village to raise a child, and maybe it took a village to raise me. My mother would probably tell you that. So that's what I believe in. And Mr. Etsy would definitely be one of them for sure. Mr. Pettis, Mr. Schatz, all those people were just there, kicking you in the butt, patting you on the back.
And so, and I know with all the teachers that I've had here in Middletown, they've definitely set an impact on me as well, and I know with other kids. So it's all about, so you're saying it's about all, those impacts that make a person better and, who they, potentially want to be.
Right, and, there's days where I still think to this day, I still don't want to disappoint those people. That's what I believe in. I want to do a good enough job so that they would never be disappointed in me.
When you started working here in Middletown, like you said, you were an employee here for 19 years. Mm-hmm. I know through that time you were in the counseling department. Yep. I believe that was in the middle school.
Yep.
And then I know you worked your way up to be assistant principal when Mr. Patrick Cruz was
yep.
principal, and then you became the principal here since then. Every time you went from a new position, as an employee, then the counselor, then assistant principal to principal, did you think how am I going to do this in this new role, or did you welcome the challenge?
I always went into those positions having an idea of what the job entailed. Probably the one I knew the least about was becoming a counselor. That was my first job at Middletown. Because as I moved through the counseling ranks for 10 years, I believe it was, to become an assistant principal, I already had my principal certificate. So I went through the coursework where you do learn about becoming a leader and things like that. I mean, it doesn't really prepare you for everything, and it never will. But I always watched what other people did. And I believe in leading and living through principles. So if you rely on your principles, you can be confident in the job you're going to do. And when I became principal, it's unheard of for someone to be an assistant principal for a year and become a principal. It really doesn't happen, but I was provided the privilege by the school board and the superintendent at the time to do that. And I was willing to work with a staff here that I knew was awesome because I already worked with them. So that part wasn't hard. I already knew people. It was more about the job, and I just would sit with Mr. Myers and we'd talk and we'd say, all right, we're going to figure this out. You know, it can't be that hard. Let's make the right decisions. Let's live on our principles and make decisions on that. Let's use policy. Let's use the student handbook, and let's make the best decision from the information that we're provided.
So did you and like Mr. Myers and like sit down and discuss like how to set the tone like to the school and to the teachers and to the students to make this school like always like a better place to be and like one of the best places to be?
Yeah, I mean, you can look right up on that, above that door. It's above his door and above mine. There are no bad teams, there are only bad leaders, and you have to own it. And we believe that. We would talk daily, and we still do to this day. But those talks then were, you know, just making sure day to day making the right decisions and trying to be consistent and fair and do what's best to provide a good environment for our kids to learn and for our teachers to do their job. If we can provide that environment for them to do their job, our kids are going to learn. And if the kids feel safe and they feel a sense of pride and connection to the school, they're going to learn.
So it's like those little connections like make come together like, you know, pieces of a puzzle.
Right.
And that sets the tone.
Yeah, and then you utilize, and in the right way, I mean that, I don't mean that in any way negatively, but you utilize resources. For example, I use Mrs. Mosteller, who has a very strong background in pedagogy and curriculum. And when I had a question about that, I would go to her and I would ask her, and we'd talk it through. And that always made me better. I would always go to the person, and it didn't matter who it was. It could have been anybody. It could have been custodian, could have been secretary, could have been any teacher in the building. I don't have too much pride to ask. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to find out. You know, and I believe that helped our staff. I believe it empowered them, and you want them to have a sense of autonomy and a sense of empowerment so that they can own this place too. So we work together. There's no I. It's we. We do this together.
So this is a team. Like
It's absolutely a team.
Nothing
Absolutely.
is done by an individual.
Right.
It's all a team.
And they knew, like, and I would tell the staff, they knew, like, there were times where maybe I or Mr. Myers or Dr. Susky or the board would have to make a decision that they might not like, might not be popular. But I believe it was respected because we would get their input so often that they understood that we'd get their input, but we have to make a decision in the end, you know?
And I know when you and Mr. Brett Myers like were the principal and the assistant principal here, and both of you were graduates in Middletown. I know you graduated in 1992.
Correct.
And Brett Myers graduated in 1993.
Right.
When both of you became principal, do you think the school like thought this was going to be like interesting? Like two assistant principals are both graduates of Middletown. Like, did you think this was definitely a turning point for the community of Middletown and a turning point for the school?
I mean, I can't speak to the community. I don't live in the community any longer. If the school is a microcosm of society, which I do believe, you know, I believe that we did some good things here. I don't know, turning point, I always felt like we just did our job. We did what we were supposed to do. I believe that if you talk to people today, they'll use names like Ed Bruner, Dennis Etsy, Casper Voiderfer, you know, and say, you know, those were times where there was structure to the school, there was discipline, and discipline looked a little different then, but there was pride. And I believe those things that were instilled in Mr. Myers and I helped determine who we are. And we came in here believing, well, that's the way it should be. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But we believe that there was a Middletown way, if you will. And if you ask people from outside of Middletown, that if Middletown's different, they'll tell you Middletown's different. And I never took that as a negative, because it's different, and that's who we are. So I believe that we took a lot of those things that we learned that helped us, because Mr. Myers and I weren't from the richest community. We were raised with, you know, good discipline, and you were supposed to behave a certain way, please, thank you, and do those little things, and they would get you a long way in life, which, I believe we've done pretty well for ourselves.
And and I believe that you did, and I know a lot of other students I know a lot of the football kids looked up to you and Mr. Myers, and I know teachers like had a really big impact on that too. And did you guys like focus on like how is this going to impact them good? Is it going to impact them bad? Like, did you think like every day is a new day full of possibilities?
Well, every day's different, yeah. I mean, but every morning, and teachers could tell you, and most of the students, I would try to get around to see every teacher every morning just to see how they were doing, just to try and set a tone for the day. And that was an opportunity for them to tell me, or for me to gauge what kind of day they might be having. And you want this to be a good place for them to work, because if they feel good about here, they're going to do a good job, and our students are going to do a good job, and they're going to learn and excel and get to that next level. I just think that, I go back to the principles that you believe in, and treating people right, and having beliefs based in relationships are probably more important. And I can tell you that, from my dissertation, that showed to be important were the relationships that people had in high school with staff that really impacted them beyond high school. So we knew relationships were important, and you hear that and it sounds a little cliche-ish, but at the end of the day, it's true. It is the truth.
And we know this, Middletown is very big on pride, and I know and I was a part of the Pride Club, I know back when I was in high school, and I know when people, when people say to Middletown, what's pride, what does it stand for? Well, it's perseverance, respect, integrity, discipline, and excellence. When you worked here, and we know Middletown is always big, when it comes to pride, when you worked here, did you always stick to what those words stand for and set that on the students and teachers here?
Yeah, it's all over the place, and when you put it in someone's face enough, they'll start to believe it. When you recognize pride, when you have it posted all over the school, it's just contagious. The ultimate compliment, I believe, that the pride. Mr. Etsy actually started the Pride program here a long time ago, probably 20 years ago, I would say. And the ultimate compliment is when somebody wants to replicate what you're doing. And I'll share this story. When I became principal, it might have been my first year, or I might not have been a principal yet, to be honest. Mr. Hanula, who is now the principal at Lower Dauphin High School, at the time he was principal at South Hanover Elementary School in Lower Dauphin School District. He and I knew each other. We coached together. He actually worked as a teacher here at one time. He called me and said, hey, I'm really interested in the Pride program that, I thought was so awesome at Middletown. Would you have a problem with us utilizing Pride at Lower Dauphin? And I said, I don't know if I'm the person to ask. If you're asking for someone's permission, you would want to talk to Mr. Etsy. Long story short, my 3 children, one just graduated from Lower Dauphin, the other 2 are students at Lower Dauphin. Pride's exactly the way we have it is throughout every one of their schools. And so you want to talk about the ultimate compliment is replication. And for them to see an importance or a benefit to something like that, to replicate it, is true flattery in the end, and shows that maybe you do some things right.
How was that actually? See, taking something that a teacher in Middletown liked and then wanted to do it at another school. Do you think basically maybe possibly we can make all the schools in Pennsylvania feel the same way?
I mean, most schools have something they tag on to, whatever it may be. It's their tagline or their brand. And as long as there's something that you believe in, but if it's just something you use, then it's pointless. It's just a word, or it's just a phrase. I like mission statements. A lot of times people just say the mission statement, but do you operate off your mission statement? That's the important piece. You can say all these great little catchphrases all day long, but if you don't truly believe it, doesn't matter what, you could have the best phrase in the world. if you don't live by it or operate by it, then it's irrelevant. It really doesn't matter. So here, I think pride has been instilled, and you'll see it, you know that. You see it in the parking lot, you see it in the school, you see it in town, you see it on t-shirts, sweatshirts, whatever it may be. It's just, some of those things you don't, and I've seen it in graduates after they leave here. Maybe they didn't understand it, or maybe they just did it and didn't realize it. When they leave here, they realize, oh my gosh, like these things were instilled in me, or it's so cool to be a part of that. It's almost like a fraternity that you're a part of.
And we know that, I know you've accomplished a lot here in Middletown, like both as a student and an employee, and have accomplished many great things. And then I know a few years ago you took it a step further and went for your doctorate.
Right.
Is there anything that made you decide that I want to get a doctorate?
No, I mean, at the time I did my superintendent's letter of eligibility, which is part of the doctorate program that I was in. So you could do that as part of the program. It's like 24 credits or whatever of the 60 credits, something like that. And I thought I would just do that because I thought I just want to have that eligibility. I don't know that I ever want to be a superintendent. But once again, it's learning. It's learning how school systems operate at a bigger level than just as a principal at like a building level. You're learning the bigger part of the system and how it operates. So I think that's why I really wanted to do that. And then I was just finishing that, and they were starting a cohort of doctorate students. And I thought, well, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And I knew that. Like if I would have taken a break, I would have never done it. And I can't tell you to this day why I jumped in it. I'm glad I did it. It was, I think really the reason I did it is a challenge. Like I wanted a challenge. I wanted to challenge myself. I believed I could do it, but I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And in the end, the amount of what I learned made me a better leader, made me a better educator, made me a better person. I never would have believed that what I learned is what I learned, and how it would impact how I might serve as an educational leader. I thought it would be more about this project you do on your own, and you answer some research and you move on, but there was so much more about how to do good research and how to evaluate good research and utilize that. You can utilize that in your school and in your profession.
And now you're taking this doctorate, and now you are leaving Middletown and a retiree as Middletown, and you're now going to Wyoming.
Yep.
And what's the position you'll be taking in Wyoming?
So I'll be the high school principal at Sheridan High School in Sheridan, Wyoming, which is northern Wyoming, more central-ish. It's Sheridan County School District 2. There's 3 school districts in the county, and I'll be working in District 2, which is where Sheridan is, which is a larger, for Sheridan, it's a larger community. The high school is probably one of the top 10 largest high schools in the state, but when I say that, there's only about 1,000 students. So in Pennsylvania, that wouldn't be probably in the top 100. But it is what it is. It's a great community. There's a lot of similarities. When I went out and interviewed, I saw a lot of similarities in the school and in the town. There's a lot of pride in what they do. Their school colors are the exact same as Middletown, which was like a sign for me, but always wanted to live in the West, and thought I'd take the plunge.
So you saw a challenge and went for it, and then you said you wanted to live out in the West, and you're looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and I've told the people in Sheridan this, some of them, I never even thought I'd get an interview. I just applied. I mean, who's some guy from 1,800 miles away applying for a job in Wyoming? Why would I get an interview even? And to have that opportunity was incredible, because I got to spend some time in Wyoming and truly evaluate the community, the school, while they evaluated me. And so it's a great opportunity. You know, you never know what life holds for you. I've spent my entire life in the greater Harrisburg area, I did my undergraduate work at Alvernia University in Reading. So really the furthest I've lived away from home for any period of time is Reading. And here I am going to Sheridan, Wyoming, which is 1,800 miles away. It's going to be interesting. I'm leaving here in a couple days to start my new job, but I'm excited. I'm excited for the adventure. I'm excited to be a part of a new team. A lot of the information that I've received from the staff there make me feel like it's a lot like Middletown. I really do feel that way. So maybe it'll be 1,800 miles away, but it'll be a lot like being in my hometown.
And so does that make you feel like a little bit like better about like taking on the new challenge in Wyoming?
Yeah.
You see it's similar to Middletown.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a high school principal for 8 years, and I don't think you ever could be a high school principal long enough to say you know what you're doing, because every day holds a new challenge, like you said earlier. But the thing that I won't have is the knowledge of the town, knowledge of the community that I have. I grew up here. Knowledge of the people. I mean, I worked with some of these people for 20 years, in essence. So just getting to build relationships is going to be the first line that I'm going to have to get over, and that's the first goal, is to get to meet people and learn the culture. I mean, it's going to be a different culture regardless, a different part of the country. It's not bad, it's just different, and I'm just going to have to learn it and figure out how I fit in.
So when you get to Wyoming and you're in your new position, is there like one specific thing or certain things that you're looking forward to, like living in Wyoming, living in the West, and like being at this new school that you said is similar to Middletown?
Well, I mean, the draw to Wyoming for me is I love the outdoors, I love to hunt and fish, so I mean, there's so many opportunities there from a recreational standpoint. I know my wife, we were looking forward to the potential of having our own little plot of land and some horses and whatnot, and I just think it's a cool little town, and it's not little, but comparatively to some of the towns in Pennsylvania, it's little. And everybody that I've talked to that's been in Sheridan says they will never leave Sheridan. So I'm going to take a plunge. We're going to see how it goes, and I'm ready for the challenge, and I think that's what I'm looking forward to, is the challenge of something new. This is going to sound crazy, but I told my wife when I was a school counselor, after 7 years, I was a little bored. And if you know what school counseling is, there's never a boring day, but I just wanted something different. So that's when I became a career counselor at the high school for a few years, and then moved into administration. And I'm not bored at Middletown at all, but I'm ready for a new challenge, I think, and that's where I'm headed.
Okay, well, Dr. Carnes, we everyone here at Middletown is excited for you, and we're gonna miss you, and like you will be missed, but we know you will not be forgotten here. You've done a lot here. You've accomplished a lot. I know every single teacher here has loved working with you. And the community loved you, and they're gonna miss you, but they'll always remember you, and I know they'll always be thinking of you 24/7, and we wish you the best of luck in Wyoming.
Thanks, Mitch. Yep, and I know Middletown's going to continue to do great things, because there's really awesome people here, awesome families, and I always felt like the kids here were really, really great, and I don't see that changing. I believe that what makes Middletown successful are the people, and that's not going to change, because there's still some really, really awesome people here. So thank you, I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, and we are wishing you farewell here in Middletown and good luck in Wyoming.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. And I'm Mitch Carson here with Dr. Michael Carnes. Thanks for watching.